Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
And if you ever have problems biting your tongue, oh my goodness, this is the episode for you. We're going to show you some strategies of how to say nothing when your kids are melting down, having huge problems, and come to you to fix it. Because the best thing is, don't fix it.
I know that is hard. We are definitely not Jedi masters in this yet, but I do feel like we've made some progress. And I know for a fact there are some tips and tricks that I have to use on a regular basis to hold my tongue because I love to be a fixer. That is like it built inside the core of Bree. Like if you were to crack me open in there, there'd be like a little like gooey part of me that's called fixer. And like that's that. I know it's a little gross way. I'm like, but whatever. It's like a gooey nougat middle.
The caramel. It's the caramel inside.
It's the caramel inside of fixing everything. But I mean, it can be done. There are ways you can do it and that you can get better at it. And it is worth it in the long run because we both have seen improvements in our relationships when we stop trying to fix things.
Yeah, we'll go into that a little bit too, about the kind of psychology behind the fixing and what it does to the other person as well. But before we get on, we have a shout out. If you get the NGM Weekly newsletter, it's our free newsletter here on No Guilt Mom. You see the little button where you can share it with friends and invite other friends to become No Guilt Moms. And when you share it, you get prizes. And the first prize you get is a podcast shout out. So I want to shout out Courtney from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you for sharing the No Guilt Mom Weekly. We are so excited to have you as part of our community. And up for the No Guilt Mom Weekly, please do so. We have a link for you right in the show notes. And now let's get on with the show. Okay, Bree. It was funny because during the intro, you were having Max, your little dog.
Yeah. He is still sitting on my lap, still desperately looking at the tiny bit of hummus that is left on my plate from lunch, and
yeah, I have not
desperately
had lunch
hoping.
I need lunch. Like I'm still on Mexico time, honestly. Like it's 2 hours later there, like 2:00, and I'm exhausted. And it's just like it's crazy. It's a little crazy coming back. I'm like,
yeah. What time did you guys get back? You got back yesterday, right?
About 7. We got back home. Yeah.
Oh, see, that's a hard turnaround.
Yeah.
Like that's where I feel like most people, you need like a day to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. We're talking about fixing and not fixing, most importantly.
Biting your tongue.
Biting your tongue. Because like even though we in our very, very extensive life experience, all of us, I'm talking to all you moms out there, like we feel like we know exactly what it would take to solve a problem. Like our kids come to us with a problem where they can't find their shoes, they don't know what to eat. I mean, what other problems are your kids coming to you with, Bree?
Oh, just like everything. Let's see. Everything from I'm not happy with my job. I need to go buy things, but I don't have money. Help. I just got a text from my dad and I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah.
Like it's a ton of stuff.
Can you take me to Target? I need something from Target.
Oh, can we go to Cinnaholic? 5 minutes later. You sure we can't go to Cinnaholic? 10 minutes later, I'll buy you Cinnaholic, Mom, if you take us to Cinnaholic. Like I'm sad. I want Cinnaholic. Like, yeah, like it's a lot of things.
It's a lot of stuff. And like, I think the hardest thing as a parent is when your kid, I mean, there's many hard things as a parent that comes out of my mouth. And I'm like, God, there's so many things that's hard as a parent. But one of the hardest things that is hard as a parent is when your kids have a problem, you just want to fix it. Like it's very difficult to watch them struggle, to experience pain, to experience frustration. All you want to do is help. And the thing is, when we come in and we fix things for our kids, they never develop the confidence that they could fix things for themselves. And that's a huge, huge thing.
And I think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna tell a story about like my daughter is actually eligible for her driver's permit. She was eligible yesterday,
Yay.
and she's very nervous about taking this test. And she's like, "Mom, can you like sit down with me and take this test? Because it's all online. Apparently, you need to have a parent there when you take it." Which I didn't find anything about this driver's permit test at all. I was like, "Here you go. You can figure it out. Just tell me where I need to be." But she wants me to tell her the answers during the test, and
Oh,
I'm like, I'm not going to tell you the answers. I'm not going to do it. She's like, why? She's like, don't you want me to have my permit, mom? Like, don't you want to get this started? I'm like, yeah, but if I tell you the answers, you're never going to develop the confidence that you can do this by yourself. And she's like, ugh, I need dad for this one. Like, you do not. He's not going to tell you the answers either. He's not.
exactly.
But
Yeah, I had that exact same dilemma actually. Like both of my so both of my kids, you could take your permit test either at the DMV or you can do it at home. So they have two options. Some great things came out of the pandemic, and that was one. Now my oldest didn't ask me to give him the answers, but he did say he fully intended to open up Google and look up the answers, to which I said, oh, hell no, you're not. And he's like, yes, I can. And I'm like, no, you can't, because I had to sign that little form right there that says that I proctored your test, and I will not turn this in for you if I see you open up a single Google window. And he's like, okay, fine, done. Conversation over. But my daughter kept hounding and hounding and hounding of like, give me the answers. Why can't you just give me the answers? Same thing. Don't you want me to get like a good score? Don't you want me to pass? And I'm like, yeah, on your own.
On your own.
Yes, on your own. And it's crazy because, okay, so like I have a lot of times I have to sit on my tongue about these kinds of things. And no, whatever the issue is, 9 times out of 10, I have an answer to their problem. Now, is my answer going to totally work? That I don't know. But I do know that it's better than either A, what they're thinking, which a lot of times is blank, I have no idea what to do, or B, they have an idea, but it's the god-awful worst idea I've ever heard before. Like the I can pass my test if you give me the answers kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
Like one that you know is not going to work. But here's the kicker, like, right? Like if we give them the advice that we're thinking of, they just get mad a ton of the times.
Oh,
and if it doesn't work out the way they want it to, then it's our fault. Because we gave them the input.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no winning in this situation. And I'm finding it like it's not as bad when your kids are younger, like 6 to 10 years old. They're receptive to your help. They're like, hey, mom, help me. Or here, mom, take it over for me, which is usually what happens with younger kids. I mean, we see it all the time. We get emails here at No Guilt Mom. It's like, how do I involve my kids in chores when it's much easier to do it without them? And totally agree. It is 100% easier to do it without them. I thought that too. 100% easier to do it without them. And I think that's why, like, I kind of like look back and I get so mad being the oldest child because I see that my younger sister got a lot of things that I didn't. And I think about that a lot with my parenting because I see now, because they're 4.5 years apart. And so there's enough of an age gap where I see like what happens in the future when I do it in the present. And so, of course, I've made some changes and I'm a lot more motivated to involve my son in stuff now because I could see the pushback that comes when they get older. But the things that I taught my daughter when she was younger and she did then, she still does as a teen. So the hard thing is in regards to biting your tongue. Yeah. You start it as early as possible. Like if you haven't done it yet and they're teenagers, it's totally okay. Like you could still do it. It just becomes easier, I feel, in the long run if you practice this starting from an early age. Of they
giving fight it less, right? Yes. Like, isn't that what you're saying? Like they have learned that is the response they're going to get. And so they don't push it as much. But like, when there's been the ability to coax the answer out that they wanted, to coax the result that they wanted, which 9 times out of 10, the result that they want is something where they have to take no responsibility for it. and not have to do anything for it. Because let's just be honest. And I want to say, like, I am not bashing our kids at all right now. And mankind, we are always looking for ways to make our lives easier and better, right? Most people don't think, wow, I'd really love a hard challenge today. I'd really love for Riverside Tech to just not work with Facebook so we can't stream. If anybody out there, like, we were supposed to live stream this episode, but it was texts were not working today.
It was
so, like,
too much.
Nobody wakes up and thinks, I want a challenge. Everybody wants something to be the easiest, happiest path of least resistance. That's like what's like biologically in tune with us. But at the same time, we also know that if we never have challenges, we're never going to learn how to solve things, and that there is nothing out there to make our lives perfect and easy and never have to do anything the rest of our lives again. It's just, that's not an option in life.
Yeah. And it's also like, it builds challenges for the future too. Like I am, for instance, very confident traveling because I've done it a lot. I've had to figure it out a lot. I mean, just yesterday we had to be at the front of the hotel by noon to catch a shuttle to the airport. And so my son was like, oh, Mom, but what if we don't get there in time? Like, oh, we're not coming in time, Mom. We're not coming. And I'm like, they're not going to leave us. Like, we paid for the shuttle. We're going to get there on time. And what happened? We got there exactly on time. They got us on the shuttle. Everything worked out. And that confidence I get because I've been in situations where mistakes have happened and I haven't gotten there on time, totally out of my control. And yet it works out. And so really when you bite your tongue and you don't tell your kids exactly what to do, like you are giving them that confidence for like a less anxiety filled future.
Okay. I love what you just said because you pointed out something biological that's going to happen by you biting your tongue, both for you and for your kid. So like we all know that like when we're doing things, our brains always go back for examples, right? People in general do, but our brains go back for examples, for evidence of something to prove that it is true. So for your child to build confidence in themselves and to believe that they truly are capable of doing hard things, they have to have experiences, examples of times that they've done hard things, right? Like that's what we do as parents all the time. We tend to be like, I know, like, I know that you're really scared of jumping off the high dive, but remember last summer when you were really scared about riding your bike without training wheels and you did it and it was amazing and it was awesome. And, you know, and your kid's like, yeah, I did do it. Yeah, I could do it. Right. And then they move forward.
Unless they're a teenager and they're like, that is a completely different situation.
Yes.
Yes.
Like how I just like stop that. Yes.
Yeah. You're like, yes.
So they do tend to look back on, and we do that naturally. So the same thing happens to you as the parent. The more often we hold our tongue, we don't jump in, we don't fix it, we don't give our advice, we just, like you've said this before in other podcast episodes, we sit in the hole with them while they're struggling. We're going to see that our child rose to the occasion and that it worked.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying every single time it's going to be 100% pretty and successful. It's messy in that hole, and sometimes it takes a few tries, but the more often you do it, the more examples in your brain you're going to have of like, I can hold my tongue. I really can do this. And it really does give me the result that I want to see, which is my kid being the capable human being that I know they are. So I love like how you just talked about that, because like that, you're building that experience for both you and your child. So yeah, you're building the bridges.
Well, there's a lot of anxiety involved too. And we're going to talk about that anxiety as a parent right after this. So talking about holding your tongue as a parent, there is an anxiety that comes up when you can't help. Like you feel in the moment you're going to fail. The biggest example of this is if you've ever gone into freezing cold water, how you take your first step in, you feel like the freezing cold water on your ankles and you want to try to force yourself to go in, your body like panics It panics. It immediately rejects it. It's like,
Yep.
no, nope, not going to
Oh.
do it. Not
Oh,
going to do it.
hell no.
And it's such an interesting phenomenon. If you haven't experienced this before, I recommend going and finding like either like putting ice cubes in your bathroom, like Tiffany Thiessen told us to do in the podcast episode we did with her, or like going into a cold plunge at like I don't know where they have cold plunges. The only place I've seen it is like
Spa?
one spa we ever went to on vacation.
I would say like it's probably, I bet if I did a Google search, I could find some places here. I know
Yeah.
we're in Phoenix. It's the 5th largest city, I think, in the country. We've got to have those somewhere.
We gotta
Plus
have
the
them
fact
somewhere.
it's Phoenix. We live in an oven during the summer.
I know those cold plunges sound real nice.
I know.
But like your whole body rejects it. And that's the same kind of feeling that you're going to have when you first start practicing this skill. Your whole body is going to reject it. It's going to think that it is wrong. It's going to like cause you a panic and anxiety that you letting your kid figure it out for themselves, like it's not going to work. This is what your mind will tell you right away. This is what happens all the time to me. I mean, my daughter was like, she'll come down and she's like, Mom, I can't find the other part of my bathing suit. And I have to like have my suitcase packed because I'm leaving tomorrow on this vacation. And I don't know what I'm going to do, Mom. I don't know what I'm going to do. And like, you hear like all this panic. And it took me everything to tell her. I'm like, I trust that you can find it. It is probably in your room somewhere. I trust you right now. And I try to modulate my voice, and you know what? It sounds calm, but inside I'm like, oh, she's not going to find it, and she's not going to be able to go. And then like, whose fault is it going to be? It's going to be me because I was the selfish mom who didn't go and help her and didn't go. Like, those are all the feelings,
Right?
Those are all the feelings,
Right? Because you sit there and you look at it almost sometimes as like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I do that, like a little bit of like a disconnection where I'll be like, all right, if I was watching this in a movie, like what would I think of that parent? Yeah, they're being selfish. Oh my God, I can't believe they're not doing X, Y, and Z. And really, yeah, no, they're not. Like
it's so interesting too because
you think people will judge you. Yeah.
Yeah, the after effects are amazing because I was working at the time, which is why I did not go up and help her. And then 4 hours later, I come up to the kitchen, I'm making dinner, I see her. And when I see her, I realize that I haven't heard about this swimsuit lately. Yeah. And I asked her, I'm like, oh, like, were you able to find your swimsuit? Yeah, it was under my bed. And it's so not a big deal. It's so not a big deal. And here I was really stressed out about it for her.
Right.
And it's just like, she's like, yeah, it was under my bed. It's fine. I'm like, and like, you just want to scream. You want to be like, ah! Like, I can't believe I just went through all that. But like, it's so interesting how it goes.
It's crazy. It really, really is. So, all right. So I'm going to have us try to frame this in like an easy to follow 4 tips and tricks that are like super helpful to like, if you really struggle with biting your tongue, if you really, really can't do it, not that you really, really can't do it, because we're here to tell you you can do it. You can. These are some things that we have tried in the past to help us, how do I say this? Build this skill, grow this skill, master this skill, even though, like I said, we're not masters yet.
Well, I would say like master is a very loose interpretation because you're allowed to make mistakes.
Okay.
Like there's all these things. So like, let's go in. Like, what's our first tip?
So you say this all the time. Embrace the silence. Like how silence is like super helpful. And it's kind of funny because if people could watch this podcast right now, Joanne's being very silent while I'm talking. She's like, I don't know if you're doing that on purpose, but it feels like you kind of are doing the whole like, I'll be silent.
No, my daughter just came in and opened the door, and I was like trying to signal to her that we were recording, so she wouldn't bother me.
That's funny. Okay, yeah. All right. So, but you need to embrace the silences. And for me, oh my God, it is so uncomfortable. I hate silence. I cannot stand no sound at all. So, that is really hard for me. But the longer there's an uncomfortable silence, the more likely someone's going to speak up. It's almost like a game of chicken. If you're competitive,
Yeah,
Try to
because
think of that way.
silence is actually like a trick you can use against people. And I have to say, like, that's one of the tricks in my arsenal because many people are exactly like you, Bree. They don't like silence. And so they will give up information that they did not mean to give up because they don't like silence. And so all you have to do is sit there and like listen, and everything will be filled in, like, absolutely everything. And you can get whatever, like, you can get more better read of the
Yes.
situation when you're
What they're
silent.
actually thinking, right?
Yeah. Because a lot of times it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't find this, but they also don't have confidence that they can't find it. They think like they won't be able to go on their trip because they like jumped like 20 steps ahead. Like I was able to use silence a little bit this weekend when the weather was kind of picking up and my kids were afraid there was a hurricane coming
Which
because
there
we were in
was, right?
Mexico. There was a hurricane coming, but it wasn't for too long. And I was like, well, what if a hurricane comes? And I'm just silent. And my son's like, we're going to die. I'm like, okay, well, are we going to die? Like, what are the steps to take if a hurricane actually comes? We're just going to die. I'm like, okay, we need to fill in some stuff here.
Yeah.
And I waited and he wouldn't go off of that. I'm like, okay, well, here what is actually going to happen. So like a lot of times silence, like when you have that silence and there's absolutely nothing more that they give you, you're like, oh, okay, that's the situation.
Yeah.
We don't know the steps in between. So you can't tell me the steps in between of
Yeah.
how we really wouldn't die because they would cancel the flight. They would move us to a protected area. The most that would happen is we would have a delay of some type, which is annoying, but it's not dying.
Mm-hmm.
So silence is such a useful tool to really get more information.
Yeah. I love that one. And we have 3 more tips that we're going to share with you guys right after this. All right. Okay, so we talked about tip number 1 about embracing the silence, which like I gotta admit, I keep hearing that. Like or every time I say that, I hear "Enjoy the Silence" by Depeche Mode in my head. Enjoy the silence. Ba, ba, ba,
I do not know that song.
Oh, I'll play it for you later.
Okay.
Very good song. I love Depeche Mode. Okay, this second tip is something that I personally do, and I did it a lot when I was in early childhood, and I have found that like it works, in many situations. So if I'm having a hard time being quiet, like I'm sitting there and I'm literally just about ready to explode with my own opinions that I want to share in this scenario, I'll start counting, or I'll sing a song.
It works.
And a lot of times like my family can tell when I do it because I am very obviously like I'm very visual.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be sitting there and I'll start looking up at the ceiling while I'm counting or remembering the lyrics, or I'll look off to the side or down, because I try not to do that whole like, because I will say this, there's nothing that drives my kids more insane, and I think it does it to most people, then when not only is the silence happening, but you're staring them down.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm just staring straight at you. It's a bit much intense. So I tend to kind of look off to the side and then I'll look back at them again. But counting or singing a song in my head helps me keep my mouth shut. So
yeah, counting is a good one. It's a good one, especially like if you're waiting for an answer. And like I do that when I'm very panic filled. I will start counting to like 30, and usually the answer comes in from like whoever I'm talking to within 10. Like they come in about 10. Yeah.
Because it's crazy, right? Like 30 seconds doesn't sound that long, but when it's dead silence of 30 seconds, oh heck,
it feels like a
it's
long
echoing.
time. It feels like a long time. Yeah. So we're counting, we're embracing that silence. We know that it's a way to get information and not say something. What else do we have?
Well, it's kind of like, it's about asking your kid this question, because a lot of time, and it will get you feedback that you and I can both share. I'm sure we both have stories of asking this question, but asking your kid the question, well, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to have happen? And like, I know sometimes what I get from that question is, I don't know what I want. If I knew what I wanted to have happen, I wouldn't be asking you.
Happened just 30 minutes ago to me. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's
that
what
exact
I was
language. That exact language. Yes. And
Yeah.
that's like one of those things where when they do that, it's a pause. It's a, okay, we're not thinking clearly right now. We
Right.
flipped our lid. We're coming at against us, obviously very stressed. A lot of parents hear that I don't know what to do, and then they give some ideas, and then the kid automatically pushes back. It's because the kid isn't wanting ideas at that time.
Yeah, they're
They
not able to listen. Like you just said, they
no,
flipped their lid.
they flip their lid. They're not able to listen. And usually like my favorite response is okay. And I walk away because that's like my reaction. What I've trained myself to do after many, many times, knowing that there's nothing I can say in that moment that will make anything better. I'm just like, okay. And then
And you
silence.
know what, though? I think that that's a really good thing because what it does is it gets both of you away from the situation where they are feeling upset.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets you away from possibly being attacked more and being
Mm-hmm.
told that it's all your fault or that you're wrong or something like that. And then it also does it gives your child that space too.
Yeah.
Where like you say okay and you walk away, they're like, "Oh, crap.
No.
All right. Maybe I
Well,
need
there
to
was a
calm down."
the problem this morning is like my daughter wanted my opinion or my help on something. At least she asked for it. And I told her, I'm like, okay, well, like what are your ideas? I don't know. I don't have any ideas. That's why I'm asking you. And I'm like, I stood there. I was like, okay, I don't have any ideas either. I need to think about it because I didn't. I
Yeah.
had no ideas. And I think that's what contributed to my panic because as a parent, you think, oh, I'm supposed to have the ideas. I'm supposed to fix it.
I'm
And so
supposed
when
to
you
know what
have
to
no
do.
idea how to fix it, you're just
Yeah.
like, I don't have any. I don't know what to do.
Right? But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but on the flip side, so like I know like right now we're making it sound like you asked that question, it's going to blow up in your face. And it can, but like we said, like there's ways to work through it. The other times, there are times where they're going to come to you and be like, I don't know. My life just sucks. I'm totally poor and I don't know what to do about it. Okay. Well, what do you want to do? Well, obviously I want to have money. Okay. Well, what are some ways that sounds good to you? Or what are some ways you've made money before? Like, can you tell I've got one kid that's unhappy with their incoming income right now.
Yes.
So there's a lot of just like asking them like, what do you want to do? Sometimes they need somebody to walk them through that thought process because they're so emotional, they're so worked up that they want to put together the thoughts, but they're having a hard time. So this is you not judging. You just continue with the okay, going back to also Bree's Brain is an ongoing pop culture like museum, I think sometimes. So I'm thinking back to the movie Dude, Where's My Car? And they go
I
through
did not see that.
oh man.
No,
Okay.
I
If
had
you're
no
ever
desire.
really looking for stupid humor,
Yeah.
Dude, Where's My Car? It is stupid 90s humor. Anyway, there's this scene where they go to the Chinese restaurant and they're trying to order food. And they talked about the Chinese Jedi mind trick. And it was only because like they're ordering Chinese food and the person they'd say, like, okay, we want a chicken lo mein and fried rice. And the person went, oh, and they're like, and then an egg roll. And then, and so they ended up ordering a whole bunch more stuff. So the point is that it's saying like, what do you want to do? Okay. And then what else okay. And you're just helping them. It's like the, and then helping them move along to that next step.
There's also something to be said about think time, like needing think time. Because
Yeah.
when you ask that question, what do you want? Yes, you may get an explosive answer at first. But if you don't react and return, you're just like, okay. And you walk away.
Right.
Or like, they sometimes come back to you. Like I usually find they like mostly my kids come back to me maybe an hour or so later when they're calm. And then I hear the real side of things because they're able to think about it and come up with an answer. So,
and the fact that you didn't yell back when they yelled is I think a huge reason that they're able to come back later. Because first of all, they're like, I know I could still talk to mom. She's not mad.
Exactly.
And two, they're like, I didn't get somebody that elevated me up another level.
Exactly.
So So it's hard. It could be anxiety provoking. We're telling you, like, we are totally acknowledging that biting your tongue can be very anxiety provoking, but
Mhm.
that the outcomes are worth it in the end.
Oh,
And it
yeah,
gets easier. It's less anxiety over time.
yeah, and a lot of our balance members have said like how they've improved over time doing this as well. And that it does take time and it does take practice. And if you don't have people around you too who encourage you with this, who are reactionary, it can be really hard to put it in place. So just like also be aware of your environment and know like if there is somebody in your life who is very reactionary who you live with, this is going to be a hard thing to overcome on your own. So give yourself a bit of self compassion for that. But like it's totally possible to stop being the reactionary, to hold your tongue, and to embrace that silence. I think these are all great tips that you can use going forward. That's really going to help a lot.
And I think if you find that you don't have that environment or that support, come join our balance group. We have, I'm going to make sure we add like a link in the show notes here because you will find that community and that support there, which is huge. But
You
I do
will.
have one more tip.
Oh,
One more
yeah.
tip. If all else fails, just grab some duct tape and put it over your mouth. I'm kidding. Sort of.
I would recommend
Kinda.
painter's tape. Duct tape is very hard
Rips
to get off.
harder. Oh,
It
okay.
hurts.
So painter's tape.
Especially if you have
Gotcha.
chapped lips. Oh, it's not good.
Oh,
I've used
that's
it.
an exfoliant you don't
I've
want to
used
have
it.
happen. Oh,
Yeah.
but I mean, like if you, it's kind of sometimes like almost like I just want to comedically just cover my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I can do that with my older kids, like especially with my daughter because she gets my sense of humor and she does know what I'm trying to do parenting wise. But like
Mm-hmm.
if she's doing something and I cover my mouth, she'll be like, "Why are you doing that?" And most of the time I'll be like, "I'm trying really hard not to give you the advice that you don't want to hear." And I
Mm.
cover it back up again. And it'll make her go from pissed off to like, okay, mom,
Okay.
whatever. That's kind of it. Does,
Like,
it's
what do
almost
you
like
want to say? What do
Yeah,
you want to
it's
say, mom?
it's almost like flipping the switch off in the room.
Mhm.
Like it grabs their attention. It kind of like jolts them free. She doesn't. Well, I will say that she has never once asked for my opinion after that.
Mm.
She just laughs at me, and then we'll kind of get back more into a thinking mode.
Okay. That's
But
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, she's never. Oh, let me be perfectly clear. That has never resulted in anybody asking for my opinion.
Oh, my daughter, she's like, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
Like, I'll say this. And be
Yeah,
like, okay.
I want to say that I love you and that I strongly believe that you can do this, and I really honestly mean it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So we want to hear how this worked for you. Please, please just DM me on Instagram, No Guilt Mom, and let us know how this helped you. Any feedback you can give us. We love it. And until next time, remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take